Welcome to my video. I am Neil Potter with Improving Your Small Business, and today we'll be discussing the 8 success criteria for any small business. Now, I've been working with companies small and large for over 30 years, and so what I've done today is just summarize, I think, 8 things companies do all the time to be successful. Now, you may have other ones to add to this, which is great. Maybe there are some in the list that you don't think are as important for you. But I would say overall that I think these 8 are a good starting point for any kind of company. So the first criteria we'll discuss is meeting customer expectations and tracking all requests. If you are like my company, most of your income, if not all of your income, comes from doing work for customers, and therefore if you miss a request or you forget about a request or it gets lost, now that could be a source of both income and annoyance. I'm always surprised by the people that work for me, the kind of vendors I use, suppliers, how bad they are typically at tracking my request. Either it's a verbal request or a text request or email or use their web page. Their request system is haphazard at best, and you really can't afford to have that. Requests could have a small value, a dollar value. They could have a very large dollar value. And if you mess up or skip a request and you're going to lose it, there could be a lot of income you just lost, and B, a customer that will not come back to you later on, because why would they if they're going to have their request lost? Now, I'm not going to go through the details of this because I have a whole video on this. If you look for on this channel for that icon or this thumbnail, you will find a whole video I put together on some different software packages and tools, both free and kind of small amount of money per year you can license and buy to do that. This is not software I produce, it's just commercial software and web pages and Excel spreadsheets and whatever you could use for tracking requests. So if that's a big issue on yours or a risk where you're going to lose things or you're not sure if you're losing things, then go take a look at that particular video. Now, the next topic area I think is important to every company, and these are recurring things, they don't go away, you have to work on them all the time, is sales and marketing. Now, I define myself or think of marketing as understanding the needs of the audience and educating people on what is possible. And so I find marketing a challenge typically, because you never know quite what people want. And if they say they want it, do they really want it? And do they have money for it? And are they going to change their mind in a heartbeat? And so marketing is essential to kind of meet the needs of people and explain to them what is possible. But it is sometimes a challenging activity. Now, sales, in my view of the world, is basically helping customers solve problems and exchanging that solution for money, or some kind of a credit. And to me, that is a lot easier to do than marketing. Now, I'm not going to go through any more details on this topic area because there's a whole video down here on the channel for selling. So go look for that particular icon or thumbnail and you'll find more details on selling on the YouTube channel. Now, the next one I think is product and service quality. Now, from a customer perspective, they always want high quality products and services being delivered. So if you're a customer for your suppliers, you want that too. But if you flip the tables, often suppliers think, I can get away with that. I can do a half job and nobody will notice, or I can cut things kind of short. I use cheaper materials or cheaper food or cheaper whatever, and the customer will be paying the money and they won't notice. They notice. So I can guarantee you people notice the quality. If I look at the people I work with over the years, they all know a good supplier and a bad supplier from a quality perspective. They're not confused in the slightest. Like you wouldn't be confused in the slightest by a good and poor kind of vendor. So I think it's a key point of any small company or any company to provide really good products that actually work, provide good warranties to them or kind of follow-up service. And if it's a service delivery activity, making sure the service is done correctly and the customer's kind of happy. Pretty obvious. Now, there's a reference article on the website here. Go to the newsletter page, this one up here, and then you'll find basically an article on different ways to handle and look at and think of about quality. So the next one in the list is cash flow, expenses, and profit. Again, fundamental to any kind of business. Cash flow would imply that you have enough money to buy things, either wages for people, if you're having employees, rental space, utilities, it's going to keep on going, supplies for the things you want to sell to customers, whatever you need to buy, essentials, you actually can buy it, you have enough cash to do that with. And if you go to SCORE, that's the group of the government that promotes small business. It's free, it's been there forever, a very good outfit. One of the articles they wrote or summarized is 82% of small businesses basically fail due to cash flow problems. And so not many companies survive long term, and typically they are suffering through cash flow, lack of money to pay for things. And so the company I have been a part of for 33 years, the consulting company, we've always had cash flow positive. Sometimes it's kind of got very low, and we were very, very, very careful. Now, like in the Y2K, when kind of the business kind of went down, at the very beginning, there was a couple of wars that people were kind of focused on, and then the recessions and a couple of the wars where money of our customers will go elsewhere on their own focus. And so over the years, we basically spent less than we earned, to have something in reserve. Obviously, you want to do that. Save the remainder cash for either investing in the business or just kind of a rainy day kind of fund. And then if you do need to borrow, then shopping around, and recognizing that when you're borrowing, obviously, you're paying interest, and that interest is money you could have used for other things. So I'm not against people borrowing because they may have capital investments, but being as clever as you can be on borrowing either lower interest rates if you can find them, and then basically paying off that kind of early to make sure the negative cash flow, money going out for interest, is kind of minimized. Now, if you do have cash flow issues and it is a chronic issue for you right now, then a few things to consider. Selling old inventory. Maybe you have some stuff you can sell off and turn into cash. You can't use it right now because it's kind of old, and therefore, but it's good enough for people to buy secondhand. Make sure your pricing is accurate. Don't price things at cost because you're going to go bankrupt. You have to have some profit to invest in the company to keep it going. And so check your estimates of your pricing for things that are accurate. They contain all of the materials and the labor. And if you're doing restaurants, for example, you include the rental space and the lighting and the utilities. All that should go correctly into a pricing activity. Reducing expenses, as I mentioned before. Maybe cheaper office space. Maybe no office space. Again, maybe you can go virtual. It depends on the kind of business you're doing. If staff leave, now I'm not recommending you lay off staff unless you've been kind of silly in employing staff. But if staff leave by natural attrition, maybe consider before you employ somebody, if the tasks are essential. Now, if they went away, would you notice, or would you notice some of them? Maybe some of them can be automated. There could be some software nowadays that can do that for you automatically or semi-automatically. And maybe the remaining staff can take on that kind of work. Now, I'm a big believer of keeping people employed and gainfully employed and building teams. But if you're really on the verge of going bankrupt because you have a cash flow issue, then you want to think more carefully about who you're employing and what the kind of work is being done. Buy cheaper second-hand stuff. There are all kinds of marketplaces where you can get good stuff that may be good enough for you for now. Maybe not the brand new fancy version, but it's good enough to kind of keep on going and save a lot of money there. And get your staff involved. If you have staff or people you work with, get them involved in the solution. They have ideas. They're different from your ideas. They have suggestions. They have maybe ways to kind of try things out that you may not be aware of. Also, you're getting them committed to the company. They're part of a team now. They are going to help you fix the bigger problem of cash flow, and they will want to be part of that solution, and you will want them to be kind of part of the solution in the long term. So don't hide it or keep it to yourself as an owner. Get the team involved because they probably have 10 times more ideas than you do because of the way they work and the things they're going to know about that you may not be aware of. The next one is staff skills, morale, and motivation. Okay. So you want to build up your staff to be skilled, to do work. You want work to be done better than before. You want customers to be happier than before. You want them to be efficient. And the only way you can do that is to basically educate them and invest in them to the extent you can do. Now, I'm not going to cover this in detail. I have a whole video with this thumbnail here on the channel. If you want to go see some examples of really good companies and kind of what they do for kind of a culture and these kind of issues, go take a look at the video. So the next one I labeled as workflow, handoffs, and bottlenecks. Now, workflow is basically how you handle requests or work. Kind of point A, okay, the request comes in and you kind of track that as we discussed before. And then the last point, kind of point B, you basically have the customer satisfied and you exchange money for things, whatever. Everybody's happy. And so the flow you go through is the workflow. And you want to look out for things here. For example, obviously before losing these requests, kind of disaster to do that. But then handoffs, okay? Those handoffs of people kind of B and C and D and E and F and whatever, okay, to their final destination. And those handoffs here are the source of potential error, where person A started it and they gave it to kind of person B and they forgot about it, or they're out of town. And they went to kind of person C and they put it on the fax machine, like, fax machine, really? And it got lost there too. And so you want to make sure that handoffs of work are done correctly and you're not going to losing things. Otherwise, the customer at the end either doesn't get anything and then you have to kind of spend your time kind of figuring out what happened, or they get more than they bargained for, or you have to spend kind of time to repair the issue that kind of got lost in the kind of on the way. And so basically look at your handoffs, making sure they're really tight, and that when information is handed off from point A to point B to point C, whatever, these people, that is done kind of well. And then the other part of that is looking for bottlenecks. So the idea of a bottleneck is that the work is building up over here and cannot go through rapidly to the next step. So maybe the requests, you have too many requests, given how many people can process it. Maybe you have a lot of mistakes and the mistakes can't be handled quickly enough. So if this is a positive thing, like requests, then recognize where the bottleneck is, maybe increase the number of people that can handle the work at that time. If this is a negative thing, like problems and issues and whatever, you don't want to necessarily figure out how to handle problems quicker. You should have probably less problems, okay? So maybe looking at some of the causes behind this stuff, handle them now, obviously, to kind of get them out of the way, but then look at the causes behind that and figure out how to avoid the bottleneck later. Okay? So do look for bottlenecks where there's a workflow issue and things are going to stacking up at one person's desk or one person's area and not going to go through to the next step. They could be doing their best job here, this person, and but it's the way that you set up the system. They are set up for failure because they cannot handle that volume of data. Now the next one is estimating and planning work. When I mentioned before about cash flow, expenses and profit, I mentioned making sure pricing is done correctly. Otherwise, if you price incorrectly for long enough, you'll go bankrupt because you're not making enough money out of the things you're paying for. And so part of that is to then price things correctly. So look at planning and estimating issues. Okay, maybe if you're pricing things either custom or semi-custom, you have a kind of a checklist to go through, making sure the scope is defined. Maybe for the customer, what is not covered. So you said we're going to do your flooring for you, but you meant hardwood flooring, not concrete flooring and hardwood flooring, okay? Or carpeting and the varnish and the whatever goes on top of that, okay? So you might want to clarify what is and is not included in the scope, the labor required, the raw materials, the profit margin you need. You need to make profit, otherwise you're going to go bankrupt. Profit keeps the lights running and the kind of the staff and kind of financed and whatever and trained. You need profit of some kind. Assumptions, if you're doing a bid sheet and like an estimate sheet for the work, making sure assumptions are defined, conditions that must be met for the estimate to be true. We can buy materials at this cost, by this time frame, the work environment we're going to work in, the concrete has been leveled, the supplier or the vendor or customer has purchased A, B, C, and they're taking care of that. There may be conditions that have to be true for your estimate to be true too, so that could go into the sheet too. And then maybe date options or scope options or actual resource availability and risks key. So putting things like, who you have available, when they're available, what date options, maybe break up the work into pieces and kind of do it in pieces, and what could go wrong. These are part of your planning. So just kind of say yes to something to a customer and not think through these other issues could end up you in kind of deep, hot water, deep water, hot water. Either is bad, okay? Because otherwise you're going to lose money. So I think planning and estimating is a key part of making money, because if you underbid or kind of underestimate here, then you're going to end up being held accountable for that, and they're kind of losing money. If you end up with a sheet like this, and basically you have a bigger price than they are willing to pay for, and then chop it up. Okay, here's a big price. Maybe they do this bit here, or they do this bit kind of over here. And so don't be scared by having big numbers. Maybe there is a way then to mitigate that by working with the customer more on kind of how to then manage the bigger numbers in smaller increments. Now, the last one I put in the list is managing suppliers. If you have suppliers give you commodity items, materials and whatever, they could be a big risk because they are an ongoing supplier. They could be doing custom work for you too, so they're going to could be messing up the customers kind of stuff for you. Again, they could be a major source of money and resources. So if you have suppliers, manage them carefully. You want to select vendors on criteria. So just write down 5 or 6 things. Look at past performance, published reviews. Okay, get a collection of them, so you're going to know how they've been performing before. Okay, product trials. So if it's a product, try it out for a month or a week, and making sure you're going to like what they are going to do for you. Making sure a good value for money compared to competitors. Maybe use that to negotiate a little bit on getting a little bit better deal. Don't squeeze them to death, otherwise they'll go out of business. But if other people are doing a little bit better for that supply, maybe you can kind of trade ideas with them and get them to kind of upgrade their offering. And then ability to do the actual work. So have a little list of things which you want to check off and do some due diligence before you're going to work with a supplier. Otherwise, you're just kind of gambling. They may work out great, they may not work out great, but don't kind of don't do nothing and then be surprised by the result at the end. Maybe have written agreements. When I say written, it could be a page. I think 1 page is good, like a checklist. It could be email 1 page. It could be a 1-page agreement that can be signed. It could be in a system like a kind of a QuickBooks kind of system where they can approve something. There are many software packages out there where you can send a quote and they can approve the quote digitally and then get it back with you. That's a way to kind of put in the details too. And so have something kind of written down that clarifies what they're going to do so they can be successful and what should have been done before you're going to pay them. If it's a long contract, it takes months or weeks or whatever, maybe you have milestones in there that can be tracked for payment. They don't get paid at the beginning for everything not done yet. They don't have to wait till the end where work has been done and then you have problems with cash. Okay, maybe you have milestones in the middle where you can pay for things in progress along the way and define that. And then verify the milestones and deliverables have been done correctly before you pay them. So have some kind of the demo to you it's been done. You can send a staff member if you have, or you, to go check the work has been done, but some kind of qualification activity to kind of verify work has been done correctly before you then pay them. And they may appreciate that for the feedback. You would know better if you're getting your money's worth, and it's a kind of way to manage the risk and problems along the way. So there are ways to handle the supplies without too much extra overhead. So in summary, there are 8 items I think are critical to any business. Okay? So what I recommend you do next is you edit the criteria, maybe there are criteria listed that are not important to you as much, and ones are going to miss that are more important to your business. Simply change the diagram as you see fit. Score yourself. So if you score yourself maybe 100% over here, and 50% over there, and 25% over there, and 100 here, if you then connect the dots together like that, maybe we have better scores over here, and you can kind of see visually kind of how your metrics are performing. Now, ideally, you want this going to be like a wheel that actually will going to rotate correctly on the ground, go flat like a regular wheel. And if you have a major indent here, it's going to showing a flat wheel with a puncture, and therefore it kind of gives you a very quick visual view of kind of what you want to work on first, second, and third. So I would say pick 1 or 2 areas to go work on, make it incremental, work over a long period of time, and kind of fix them bit by bit, and measure the relative performance you have over time. And involve your staff. You employ them because you believe they're good. They actually may enjoy working on this. They may know things you don't know that could be improved for these different areas. Okay, they're being committed or getting committed to the way you're going to run the company. They're part of your team now. So I would definitely involve your staff in the diagram and the scoring and the corrective action, and then take action to kind of see where you go. Any comments or questions, please put down below. Thank you. Bye-bye.